The brand new iPad mini from Apple is my favorite iPad to read on and is likely to be a smash hit this holiday season. I've had one for over the past month and I've used this iPad mini way more than I thought I would, so I'm going to go through all the things I use this iPad for, some of the downsides to getting an iPad mini over a different version of an iPad, and then ultimately who I recommend the iPad mini for. First up, let's talk about the design of this iPad mini. It's arguably the most important thing about it. Apple did a really good job with the weight on the iPad mini, with the Wi-Fi version weighing just 293 grams or a little over half of a pound. And this makes it light enough for me to be able to comfortably hold it one-handed for long periods of time because it's so light. Now this year, the iPad mini was updated with a familiar design to match the sleek and elegant designs of the iPad Pro and iPad Air, which means the iPad mini now supports the second generation Apple Pencil, USB-C charging, it comes with an included 20-watt charger, and has Touch ID embedded in the sleep wake button, which is a convenient place to put that feature. Now there is one accessory missing for the iPad mini that Apple makes for the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, and that would be the Magic Keyboard. Because the iPad mini has such a small form factor, I agree with Apple's decision not to make a keyboard for it. I wouldn't recommend using the iPad mini to do word processing on and would point you to the slightly larger iPad Air. The iPad mini sports an 8.3-inch liquid retina display and is about the size of a Kindle. Now, I have a 12.9-inch iPad Pro, an iPad Air, and the iPad mini. And by far, the iPad mini is my favorite iPad to carry around, read on, mark up a document, or watch a YouTube video on. And while I'm not really into mobile gaming, I think this form factor coupled with the A15 Bionic Apple put in this iPad, I think this iPad would be a great device to game on if you're into iOS gaming. Now there are a few things that I wish Apple had put into this device. First, the iPad mini's display, it's LCD. Not OLED like the iPhone screens or mini LED like the iPad Pro or the newly redesigned MacBook Pros have. This means that when the screen is in dark mode with a black background and white text, the background doesn't look pure black, like you get with an OLED display, which helps increase the contrast. I also wish the screen could get brighter. The maximum brightness for the iPad mini's display is 500 nits, and at that brightness level, you're not going to be using this iPad in direct sunlight to read on. And now that the iPhone 13 Pros have a ProMotion display just like my iPad Pro does, which makes a difference when scrolling through text, I wish there was a version of the iPad mini that did that too. Basically, I've enjoyed the form factor of this iPad mini so much that I wish that Apple would make an iPad Pro in this size. Now another downside I'll mention with this iPad mini is its starting storage. For $499 US, it's not a cheap device, and it starts off with only 64 gigs of storage, which at this point in late 2021, it should start with 128 gigs. And if you want more storage, like with the iPad Air storage tiers, Apple forces you to pay $150 US more for the 256 gig model with no middle storage tier at all. Now, as I've said before, the main thing I use my iPad mini for is for reading. And it's perfect for reading news, long-form articles, websites, checking social, etc. And best of all, because it's so light and so portable, I found it easy to read on in a variety of situations. Whether you're sitting in a chair, lounging on a couch, or my personal favorite, in bed, better yet, when you pair it with the smart cover case that can fold into a stand configuration, you can use that to prop up the iPad mini and use the rotation lock feature so the iPad screen stays in an orientation that matches my face when lying down on my pillow, making it my all-time top device setup for reading before bed. Two other features that make this iPad great for reading on, especially at night, are dark mode and grayscale. Now you may be familiar with dark mode already. Most major apps now support it, and it's easy to toggle on from Control Center by swiping from the top right of the screen and selecting the dark mode icon. You can also schedule dark mode to turn on and off at a specific time in the iPad mini settings. Now grayscale is a special mode that you can enable in accessibility settings, and it removes all of the color from the iPad mini's display, making it look much more like a Kindle reader, and the gray colors to me are less visually interesting to look at, which doesn't tempt me to keep using my iPad mini past my bedtime, helping me to fall asleep on time. This is actually the same type of functionality Android delivers with their bedtime mode. Now, unfortunately, with grayscale on the iPad mini, you can't schedule it to turn on at a specific time like you can on an Android device. However, you can add an accessibility shortcut button to the control center and then add Greyscale as a shortcut within the accessibility shortcut, which makes it easier to trigger right from control center. The iPad mini also features True Tone and Night Shift, which help make the display look good, especially during the evening hours. True Tone uses an ambient light color temperature sensor to measure the ambient light around your iPad and adjust the white balance of the display to match. So if your lights around you are more of an amber warm light, your iPad screen will adjust and turn to a warmer color. Night Shift is a feature for evening reading that you can schedule to turn on at a specific time. It shifts the color of your screen to a warmer tone, reducing the blue light the screen emits, and it makes it easy on the eyes and hopefully less likely to keep you up at night. You can also adjust how intense the warmness of the screen is in display settings. Now, the last thing that makes this device such a great device to read on for me are all of the apps that you can download on it. News apps, book apps like iBooks or the Kindle app, and Pocket, my all-time favorite app for reading news stories on because it syncs across all of your devices and it's easy to send an article to from any app or website from the share sheet on any of my devices, including Android devices, so I can read them all later all in one place no matter the source they came from. Now, aside from reading, the iPad also makes a great media consumption device, especially for casual viewing. If you're more serious about screen quality for the content you watch, you'd probably want to go with the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, which has a much better display for HDR content. But for casual consumption, I really like the iPad mini, and its stereo speakers on both sides of the device are actually pretty decent. They lack some bass, and if you're going to be watching something for a long period of time, I'd recommend putting on either a pair of headphones or earbuds, like the AirPods Max, which I've reviewed, for better immersive sound. Or if you want to use your iPad mini as a music control device, having an AirPlay-enabled speaker like the HomePod mini is a great accessory device to have for better sound. The battery life I've experienced on my iPad mini so far has been very good. I'm typically seeing about 6 to 7 hours of screen time with casual use. Using the device for an hour or two every day, I can get through multiple days without needing to charge it. Now, as I stated before, this iPad does support the second generation Apple Pencil, which means the Apple Pencil can now magnetically charge on the side of the iPad mini, which has caused me to use this device way more. I think the second generation Apple Pencil makes the iPad mini a great note-taking device or device for marking up documents or highlighting digital books and PDFs. However, for drawing or professional illustration work, you'll likely want an iPad with a larger display size. Now, another standout feature with this iPad is of course the software that runs on it, iPadOS 15, which has some great features, like quickly taking a note by sliding the Apple Pencil from a corner into the screen, or making the keyboard smaller, like the size of a keyboard on an iPhone, which makes the one-handed typing experience much better. iPadOS is also a much more versatile OS than what you'll find on other reading devices like a Kindle because of the apps you can download on it. And you get a lot of benefits from additional Apple devices you have, like automatic headphones switching with the AirPods or certain Beats products, and continuity, so you can pick up from an article you were reading on your phone by tapping the icon on your dock on the iPad mini. So that's everything I like about my iPad mini, what I use mine for, some of the things I wish it had, and then some of the downsides of using it. So who do I recommend get an iPad mini? In general, I think the iPad mini is for those who want to use an iPad primarily to read on or consume media on, whether that be iOS games or media apps like Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, YouTube, etc. And it's for those use cases, and especially if you do not feel that you will need a physical keyboard to type on in order to use your iPad. Also, I think those interested in getting an iPad for note-taking and want something very portable will be happy with the iPad mini as well, though if you want to take notes on something closer to a 9x11 size, then you'd want to go for the iPad Air. And then lastly, I think the iPad mini is potentially a great Apple gaming device because of its size and the A15 Bionic. However, you are limited to only games you can download from the App Store, so you can't play games like Fortnite on this device. Now, if you have a previous generation of an iPad mini and you're wondering whether or not it's worth it to upgrade to this newest version, in general, my answer there would be yes. I think you get enough new things, like the all-new design, processor, and Apple Pencil second generation support. Add those things all up together, and I think it makes it worth the upgrade. The iPad mini starts at $499 US for 64 gigs of storage. The iPad mini also comes in multiple colors, including space gray, pink, Purple, and Starlight. And like the iPad Pro and the iPad Air, there is a configuration where you can get cellular support, and the device also supports 5G. If you have any further questions about the iPad mini or want to share your experience with an iPad mini, leave a comment below, hit that thumbs up button if you liked this video and found it helpful, and then subscribe to the channel to see more tech review videos like this one on Apple and other tech products. For 6 months later, I'm Josh Tedder. Thanks for watching.